Hey there, friends. Picture a quiet Iowa evening, where a biker couple, Jake and Ellie, and their loyal dog Duke are about to face a shocking betrayal that'll test their family in ways they never imagined. This heartwarming true story of love, courage, and a security camera that revealed the truth will remind you of the unbreakable bonds that hold us together. If you love stories that inspire and celebrate the power of loyalty, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a moment. Let's dive into Jake, Ellie, and Duke's incredible journey. The call came at 10:03 p.m., slicing through the quiet evening that Jake and Ellie Harper had hoped would be their first break in months. Ellie's coffee mug paused midair, her hazel eyes widening as Jake's face turned pale. On the other end of the line, his sister Rachel's voice was a frantic sob. "The dog, Duke, attacked me. He won't let me near Lily. I'm hurt. Jake, please hurry." They left their dinner untouched, the roar of Jake's Harley echoing through the empty streets of Cedar Falls, Iowa, as they sped home. Ellie clung to Jake. Her arms tight around his waist, her helmet pressed against his leather jacket, whispering prayers for their baby girl, Lily. "Not her, please, not our little girl," she murmured, her voice trembling with fear. 17 minutes later, they burst through the front door of their small ranch-style home, hearts pounding. The sight that greeted them was nothing like they'd expected. Rachel sat on the couch, her face streaked with tears but otherwise unharmed, while Duke, their loyal German shepherd, stood like a statue between her and the nursery, his teeth bared in a silent warning. Without a word, Jake moved to the security system on the wall and pulled up the camera feed. What they saw in those flickering black and white images would shatter everything they thought they knew about trust, family, and the darkness that can hide behind a familiar smile. If you're watching this story, I'd love for you to leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and let me know the city you're tuning in from. Now, let's dive into the incredible journey of Jake, Ellie, and their guardian dog, Duke. Jake and Ellie Harper's story began in the heart of America's Midwest, where the open road and the rumble of motorcycles offered an escape from the scars of their pasts. Ellie had grown up in a string of foster homes across Iowa, abandoned as a baby at a local shelter. Each new family promised her a forever home, only to send her back when life got complicated. By the time she was 15, she'd built walls around her heart as tough as the leather jacket she bought with her first paycheck. Jake's childhood was no easier. The eldest son of a father whose temper flared with every drink, Jake learned early to shield his younger sister, Rachel, from the worst of their dad's outbursts. When their mom passed away from a sudden illness when Jake was 18 and Rachel was 15, he dropped out of high school, took a job at a local auto shop, and fought for custody of his sister, vowing they'd never be torn apart. The Iron Riders Motorcycle Club became their salvation. Ellie found a job bartending at their clubhouse, a weathered barn on the edge of Cedar Falls, while Jake's knack for fixing bikes made him a valued member. They met on a starry summer night, bonding over their shared love of the open road and the freedom it promised. 5 years later, they married under a sprawling maple tree, surrounded by their leather-clad club family. Their vows a promise to build the home neither had ever known. But one dream remained out of reach, a child of their own. 3 years of trying, 2 miscarriages, and a failed round of fertility treatments left them heartbroken. The pain was especially sharp for Ellie, who couldn't shake the irony of being an unwanted child herself, now unable to create the family she longed to love. Duke entered their lives on a stormy September evening. Jake found the German shepherd shivering under a bridge on his way home from a club ride, his fur matted and a deep cut on his hind leg. Without a second thought, Jake wrapped his jacket around the trembling dog and brought him home. Ellie cleaned his wounds, her hands gentle as she whispered, "You're safe now, buddy." As they nursed Duke back to health, something shifted in their wounded hearts. They couldn't save the children they'd once been, but they could save this abandoned soul, and in doing so, they began to heal themselves. Duke became their anchor, a quiet presence who seemed to understand their pain in a way no one else could. 6 months after Duke joined their family, Ellie noticed subtle changes in his behavior. She'd wake to find him pressed against her side of the bed, his amber eyes watching her with an intensity that felt almost human. When she moved through the house, he followed, his fur brushing her legs with every step. "He's gotten real attached to you," Jake remarked one morning, watching Duke trail Ellie from the kitchen to the living room. "Maybe he's just nervous we'll leave him," Ellie replied, remembering the vet's warning that it could take a year for a rescue dog to fully trust his new home. But Duke's focus was only on her. He gave Jake plenty of space. Content to nap at Ellie's feet while she worked on the club's bookkeeping. The following week, Ellie started feeling sick, nausea that hit hardest in the mornings, leaving her dizzy and weak. Duke's behavior grew even more intense. He'd whine softly whenever she felt ill, nudging her stomach with his nose and refusing to leave her side. "It's like he knows something's wrong," Ellie told her friend Clara, a fellow club member, after a particularly rough morning. "Maybe I should see a doctor. What if it's serious?" That Sunday, too nervous to wait for her appointment, Ellie bought a pregnancy test while Jake was at the shop. With Duke sitting faithfully by her side, she watched as 2 pink lines appeared, her breath catching in her throat. "How did you know?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face as Duke rested his head in her lap, his eyes never leaving hers. Dr. Margaret Evans confirmed the news with a cautious smile. "Given your history of miscarriages, this is a high-risk pregnancy," she warned, reviewing Ellie's chart. "The odds aren't great, but I've seen miracles happen. We'll do everything we can." Jake broke down when Ellie told him, his rough hands trembling as he touched her stomach. "We'll be so careful," he promised. "No more bike rides for you, no heavy lifting at the bar. I'll talk to Bear about lightening your shifts." Duke seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, appointing himself Ellie's protector. He growled softly when club members got too close, his instincts kicking in to shield her. He slept by her side of the bed, pacing anxiously whenever she felt the cramps that sent fear through both of them. "He knows you're carrying something precious," Bear, the club president, observed during a barbecue at the clubhouse, watching Duke guide Ellie away from the smoky grill. Bear, a gruff man with a soft spot for kids after losing his own son years ago, had taken a special interest in their journey. Dogs have a sense for these things that we've forgotten. Not everyone shared their joy. At 12 weeks, when they shared the news, reactions ranged from excitement to skepticism. Ellie's boss at the diner raised an eyebrow. "A baby in your world? Kids need stability, not a house full of bike parts and rally noise." Clara's husband, Tom, was blunter at a club meeting. "We're happy for you, but CPS watches biker families like hawks. One complaint, and they'll be at your door." Jake's temper flared. "We're not doing anything wrong," he snapped. "We're not that kind of club." Bear stepped in, his voice calm but firm. "They're not saying you are, but perception matters. You'll be under a microscope once that baby comes." The debate divided the club. Older members argued that kids raised in the biker life learned loyalty and grit, while others worried about the challenges ahead. Ellie slipped outside during the argument. Duke at her side, and sat on a bench by the clubhouse, one hand on her growing belly, the other in Duke's fur. "They don't get it," she whispered. "This baby isn't about fitting some perfect picture. It's about the family we never had." Duke nudged her hand, his steady presence a comfort as the sun set over the Iowa fields. Whatever lay ahead, Ellie knew their little family, her, Jake, Duke, and the life growing inside her, would face it together. The contraction started on a quiet Wednesday evening, 4 weeks before Ellie's due date. She was organizing tiny clothes in the nursery when a sharp pain gripped her lower back, stealing her breath. Duke, who had been napping nearby, was instantly alert, his ears pricked as he watched her. When the second contraction hit minutes later, his low whine brought Jake running from the garage. where he'd been working on a bike. "It's too early," Ellie gasped, clutching her belly as Jake helped her to their newly bought SUV. "Dr. Evans said 38 weeks at least." Jake forced a smile, though his hands shook as he buckled her in. "Babies don't follow schedules, sweetheart. Let's get you to the hospital." The 20-minute drive to Cedar Falls Medical Center felt endless, with Ellie's contractions coming every 3 minutes. Dr. Evans was waiting, her face tight with concern. "The baby's heart rate is dropping with each contraction," she said after a quick exam. "The cord is wrapped around her neck. We need an emergency C-section, now." Everything moved in a blur: surgical lights, masked faces, the sterile smell of the operating room. Jake wasn't allowed in until the spinal block was administered, leaving him pacing the hallway, his leather vest swapped for ill-fitting scrubs. When he finally joined Ellie, he held her hand, whispering promises as the team worked. "She's not crying," Ellie said, her voice breaking as they lifted the tiny, blue-tinged baby from her body. "Jake, why isn't she crying?" The silence stretched, each second an eternity, until a small, fragile wail broke through. The room exhaled as the baby's skin pinked up, her tiny fists flailing. "Lily," Ellie whispered when they placed the swaddled infant on her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Her name is Lily Harper." Back home, Duke had been inconsolable, pacing by the window and refusing food while they were gone. A neighbor reported that he stood watch for 18 hours straight, his amber eyes fixed on the driveway. When Jake and Ellie brought Lily home 3 days later, after monitoring for minor breathing issues, Duke's demeanor shifted. He sniffed the baby cautiously, his tail giving a single wag, then positioned himself beneath Ellie as she nursed, ready to catch Lily if she fell. The first weeks of parenthood were a whirlwind of sleepless nights and new routines. But Duke proved invaluable. He seemed to sense Lily's cries before they even started, nudging Jake or Ellie awake seconds before the baby stirred. When visitors came to meet Lily, he stayed close, his body relaxed but his eyes sharp. "I've never seen a dog so devoted," Clara remarked during a visit, watching Duke lie beside Lily's playmat. "He's her guardian angel." Ellie's mother-in-law, who disapproved of their biker lifestyle, was less impressed, leaving after a short visit with a pointed comment about the noise of those bikes being no place for a baby. By Lily's 6-week mark, the financial strain was undeniable. The C-section and hospital stay had drained their savings, and Jake's small bike repair business wasn't bringing in enough to cover their bills. Ellie's maternity leave from the diner was ending, but the idea of daycare filled them with dread. "I could take night shifts," Jake suggested one evening, sitting on their porch as Lily slept in Ellie's arms. "You work days. We'd barely see each other, but one of us would always be with her." Ellie shook her head. "That's not the family we wanted, Jake." "What about Rachel? Could she help?" Rachel Harper had always been a complicated figure in their lives. She'd been at their wedding, helped them find their house, and occasionally dropped by with gifts, but she and Ellie had never truly bonded. After their father's death 6 years ago, Rachel had moved to Des Moines for college, returning to Cedar Falls after earning a degree in child psychology. She was between jobs, having left a daycare center that recently closed. "She's family," Jake said, considering. "And she's qualified. It'd keep Lily with someone we trust." Ellie hesitated, her unease about Rachel hard to pinpoint. "Someone you trust," she corrected gently. Still, they agreed it was their best option, and after a few discussions, Rachel eagerly accepted the role of Lily's caregiver. The first day Rachel arrived, she was dressed in a crisp blouse and slacks, her auburn hair in a neat bun, looking more like a corporate professional than a nanny. "I've got everything under control," she assured Ellie, glancing at the detailed schedule Ellie had left on the counter. "I've got a degree in child psychology, I can handle one baby." Her tone was light, but Ellie felt a sting of dismissal. It's just hard leaving her, Ellie admitted, kissing Lily goodbye. Duke, who had been watching from beside the bassinet, stood and positioned himself between Rachel and the baby. His stance deliberate. He's a bit protective, Jake explained, noticing Rachel's frown. He's been like that since Ellie was pregnant. Just give him some space. The first week went smoothly. Rachel sent regular updates, photos of Lily napping, playing, or eating, easing Ellie's nerves. But by the second week, Duke's behavior began to shift. He started following Rachel around the house, staying close whenever she held Lily. He won't let me put her down for a nap without standing at the nursery door, Rachel complained one evening as Jake and Ellie returned home. And today, he growled when I reached for her blanket during a diaper change. Jake frowned, looking at Duke, who was sniffing Lily in her swing, tail wagging gently. That doesn't sound like him. He's never been aggressive. Rachel adjusted her sleeve, her voice calm but firm. It's not aggression, exactly, but he's making it hard to care for her. Maybe he's just not used to me yet. Ellie and Jake exchanged a worried glance. He's been with Lily since day one, Ellie said. This is the first time he's had to share her. Rachel nodded, gathering her things. Maybe, but if this continues, you might need to keep him separated while I'm here, for Lily's safety. The suggestion lingered after Rachel left, leaving Jake and Ellie torn. We've never crated him before, Ellie said, watching Duke lie beside Lily's swing, his ears alert to her every sound. It feels wrong to start now. Jake sighed. But if Rachel doesn't feel safe, we might not have a choice. We can't afford another caregiver. They decided to give it a week, hoping Duke would adjust. Instead, his behavior grew more intense. Rachel reported that Duke refused to eat the food she offered, waiting for Jake or Ellie to return. He slept outside the nursery door during naps, making it hard for Rachel to check on Lily without stepping over him. By the third week, Rachel arrived with a bandage on her wrist and an ultimatum. He snapped at me yesterday, she said, showing a small bruise on her forearm. I was picking Lily up after her nap, and he lunged. If I hadn't moved, it could have been worse. Either he goes, or I do. Jake examined the mark, his stomach sinking. Duke has never bitten anyone, he said, his voice tight. Are you sure? Rachel's eyes flashed. Are you saying I'm lying? I love Lily. But I can't risk my safety. The accusation strained Jake and Rachel's relationship, a rift they hadn't felt since childhood. Jake, torn between his sister and his trust in Duke, grew distant. Ellie found herself caught in the middle, her own doubts about Rachel's story growing. He's never been aggressive with Lily, she whispered to Jake that night, the baby monitor glowing beside their bed. Why would he suddenly turn on her? Jake stared at the ceiling. I don't know, but Rachel wouldn't make this up. What reason would she have? The situation escalated when Rachel brought Tom, a club member, to their home. Rachel told me about Duke, Tom said, his tall frame filling the room. My brother in Nebraska has a training facility for difficult dogs. He could take Duke for a few months. Work on his behavior. Difficult dogs? Ellie repeated, her voice rising. Duke isn't difficult, he's family. Tom raised his hands. I get it, but Rachel's worried. Better to fix this now before something happens. The idea of sending Duke away felt like a betrayal, but Rachel's concerns, and the bruise on her arm, left them with little choice. After a heated argument, Jake and Ellie agreed to a compromise. Duke would be kept in the backyard during Rachel's hours, allowed inside only when they were home. The arrangement left everyone unhappy. Duke grew withdrawn, staring through the glass door at the family he couldn't reach, while Rachel continued to report strange behaviors, claiming she heard him growling outside during Lily's naps. The tension in the Harper household reached a breaking point when a Child Protective Services worker knocked on their door one Tuesday afternoon. "We received a report about an infant in an unsafe environment with an aggressive animal," the woman explained, her clipboard in hand as she inspected their home. "This is absurd," Ellie protested, her voice shaking. "Duke has never been aggressive with Lily." The worker's expression remained neutral. "We take all reports seriously, especially involving infants and large dogs." Though the visit found no cause for action, it left Jake and Ellie rattled. That evening, they sat at the kitchen table, Duke curled around Lily's bouncer, his eyes soft as he nudged her tiny sock back onto her foot. "What if it happens again?" Jake asked, his voice hollow. "What if they decide there's enough to investigate further? We can't risk losing her." Ellie watched Duke's gentle movements, her heart aching. "I know, but something feels off. It's like we're being pushed into a corner." Jake looked away. "Tom's brother can take Duke this weekend. It'd just be temporary. Until we figure this out." Ellie's protest died in her throat as she saw the pain in Jake's eyes. "1 week," she said finally. "We'll try to find another solution in 1 week." Jake nodded, squeezing her hand. 1 week. 2 days later, Bear called Jake to an urgent club meeting, his tone serious. "Go," Ellie urged. "I'll handle things here." With Jake gone and Rachel not scheduled until the next day, Ellie took the chance to observe Duke without interference. She laid a blanket on the living room floor, placing Lily in the center with her toys, and invited Duke to join them. He approached cautiously, lying at the edge of the blanket, his position allowing him to see both Lily and the door. "You'd never hurt her, would you?" Ellie murmured, scratching his ears. Duke leaned into her touch, his eyes never leaving Lily. "So what's really going on when we're not here?" That evening, with Jake still at the clubhouse, Ellie went through her routine, preparing bottles, folding laundry, checking the baby monitor. When Jake texted that he'd be late, Ellie settled Lily in her crib, Duke taking his usual spot on the floor beside it. As she kissed Lily goodnight, Ellie whispered, "We'll figure this out. I won't let anyone tear our family apart." She couldn't have known how soon that promise would be tested. The decision about Duke's future was looming. Driven by forces she and Jake didn't yet understand, forces that would soon reveal themselves in the most shocking way. The decision came to a head on Thursday night. Jake and Ellie sat at their kitchen table. Lily asleep in her crib, Duke at their feet. 3 days had passed since the CPS visit, and the weight of their choice was suffocating. "Tom's brother called," Jake said, breaking the silence. "He can take Duke on Saturday morning. It'd be for 3 months, maybe 4, enough time for training." Ellie's grip on her mug tightened. "And you decided this without me?" Jake's face fell. "No, I haven't decided anything. But we're out of options, Ellie. Rachel won't keep working with Duke here, and CPS is watching us. One more complaint, and we could lose Lily." Ellie's voice trembled. "What if we found someone else to watch her? Someone who isn't scared of Duke?" Jake shook his head. "We've been over this. We can't afford daycare, not with the hospital bills. Rachel's the only reason we're managing." Ellie's frustration boiled over. "All our problems started when she began watching Lily. Doesn't that seem strange to you?" Jake sighed. "I know you've never really liked Rachel, but she's my sister. Why would she cause trouble?" Ellie had no answer, only a gnawing suspicion she couldn't shake. The truth was, their options were dwindling. Without Rachel, Ellie would have to quit her job, plunging them deeper into debt. With CPS involved, another incident could have devastating consequences. "I'll make some calls tomorrow," Ellie said finally. "One last try to find another option before Saturday. If I can't." Her voice broke, the thought of losing Duke too painful to voice. Jake reached for her hand. "It'd only be temporary, until we're back on our feet." They both knew it was a fragile promise. Once Duke was gone, new routines would form, and his return would become less likely. That night, Ellie lay awake, listening to Duke's soft movements through the baby monitor as he guarded Lily's crib. The idea of Lily growing up without the dog who'd loved her from the start brought fresh tears to her eyes. The next day, Ellie called every daycare and nanny service in their budget, but the results were the same: long waitlists or unaffordable fees. By evening, the reality was clear: without Rachel, they had no viable childcare. When Jake returned from work, Ellie's expression told him everything. "I'll call Tom," he said quietly, stepping outside to make the arrangements. Through the window, Ellie watched Jake pace the yard, Duke following close, pressing his head against Jake's leg in a gesture of comfort. When Jake came back inside, his eyes were red but his voice steady. "It's set. Tom and his brother will come Saturday morning at 9. They think it's best if we don't drag out the goodbye." That evening, they broke their routine, letting Duke join them on the couch as they watched a movie, memorizing the feeling of their family together. Saturday dawned gray and rainy, the weather matching their mood. Ellie packed Duke's things: his favorite ball, a worn blanket, the brush he loved, her movements mechanical. "Maybe we should add something with our scent," she suggested, her voice hollow. Jake nodded, adding an old t-shirt to the bag. At 8:30, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Rachel stood on the porch, dressed impeccably, a planner in hand. "I know I'm not scheduled," she said, stepping inside. "But I thought I could watch Lily while you handle Duke's transition. It might be easier if she's not here for the goodbye." Ellie's anger flared at the intrusion. "That's not necessary," she began, but Jake cut in. "Actually, that might help. It'll be hard enough without Lily getting upset." Before Ellie could argue, Rachel was in the living room, cooing over Lily in her playpen. Duke watched from across the room, his body tense but his behavior calm, a silent rebuttal to Rachel's claims. At 8:45, Jake pulled Ellie aside. "I've been thinking," he said quietly. "After everything, maybe we could use a night out tonight, just a few hours to reconnect." Rachel offered to stay with Lily. "We could go to Bella's for dinner." Ellie stared at him, incredulous. "Today? Of all days?" Jake's eyes pleaded. "Not now, tonight. We need this, Ellie. A moment to breathe." Reluctantly, she agreed, though her heart wasn't in it. At 9 o'clock, Tom's truck pulled into the driveway, followed by a van marked Midwest Canine Training. Jake went to meet them while Ellie knelt beside Duke, her arms around his neck. "Be good," she whispered, tears falling. "Show them how special you are. Come back to us soon." Duke sat still, his amber eyes locked on hers, as if he understood. When Jake called from the door, Duke pressed against Ellie's legs one last time before walking out, head high. Ellie couldn't watch him leave, staying in the living room as Rachel's sympathetic words washed over her. Unheard. The day passed in a haze of grief. Jake retreated to his workshop, the sound of his tools a distant hum, while Ellie moved through Lily's routine on autopilot. Rachel stayed, managing feeds and naps with efficiency, her suggestions that Ellie rest ignored. By late afternoon, Duke's absence was a tangible void, the lack of his paws on the hardwood, the missing warmth of his body beside her, the silence where his breathing should have been. "You should get ready," Rachel said at 5:30, nudging Ellie from the couch where she'd been staring at a book. "Jake said your reservation is at 7. Ellie nodded, dressing in a simple sweater and jeans, her reflection in the mirror a stranger, hollow-eyed and distant. Jake emerged in a clean flannel shirt, his beard trimmed, an attempt at normalcy that felt forced. He kissed Lily goodbye, thanked Rachel for staying, and guided Ellie to the SUV, his hands gentle but trembling. "This is a mistake," Ellie said as they drove away. "We should be home." Jake squeezed her hand. "We need this, Ellie, a moment to remember we're still us." Dinner at Bella's was strained, their conversation circling back to Duke's absence. They barely touched their food, the 2 glasses of wine they ordered more habit than enjoyment. When Jake's phone rang at 10:03 p.m., Rachel's panicked voice shattered the fragile calm. "Duke attacked me. He won't let me near Lily. I'm hurt, please come home." They raced back, Jake's knuckles white on the steering wheel, his jaw clenched. The porch light cast eerie shadows as they approached the house. Rachel met them at the door, her appearance disheveled, eyes red but dry. "Thank God you're back," she said, hugging Jake. "It was awful." Ellie pushed past, running to the nursery, where Lily slept peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling. The relief was overwhelming, but Jake's voice was sharp with fear. "Where is he?" Rachel pointed to the backyard. "I locked him out there after he lunged at me. He's gone feral, Jake." Ellie grabbed Jake's arm. "Wait, something's wrong. Duke isn't here. Tom and his brother took him this morning. He can't be in the backyard." The realization hung in the air, reality shifting around the impossible fact. Rachel's expression faltered, confusion replacing her distress. "But I heard growling. Scratching at the door, I thought." Her voice trailed off. "You thought we wouldn't question you," Jake said, his voice low and dangerous. "You thought we'd panic and not realize Duke isn't here." Ellie moved to the security panel, pulling up the footage. Rachel stepped forward, her voice sharp. "There's no need for that, I must have been mistaken. Maybe it was a stray dog." Jake moved her aside. "Move." Ellie rewound the footage to after they'd left for dinner. The images were clear, Rachel checking on Lily, then making a phone call. "Turn up the audio," Jake said, his eyes fixed on the screen. Rachel's voice came through, low but distinct. "They're gone." "Yes, the dog too. I'm alone with her." "Of course I'm sure, they trust me. Just get over here, Tom. We don't have much time." Ellie's stomach dropped. The footage showed Rachel preparing bottles, checking her watch, then letting Tom into the house. He moved straight to the nursery, a small camera in hand, while Rachel stood lookout. "What the hell is this?" Jake whispered, horror in his voice. Rachel edged toward the door, but Ellie's rage stopped her. "Don't you dare move," she snapped, grabbing her phone. "I'm calling the police." Rachel's composure cracked. "It's not what it looks like. Tom just wanted pictures of his goddaughter." Jake's voice was hollow. "He's not her godfather. And that doesn't explain your lie about Duke." The footage continued, Tom taking photos of Lily, Rachel staging the attack, scratching her own arm, disheveling her clothes, practicing a distressed expression before calling them. "Why?" Jake asked, facing his sister. "What reason could you have for this?" Rachel's face hardened. "You wouldn't understand. Tom has connections, clients who pay big money. More than you'll ever make fixing bikes." The implication hit like a punch. "You've been planning this since before Lily was born." Ellie realized, her voice shaking. The childcare, the complaints about Duke, it was all to get him out of the way. Rachel's silence confirmed it. Jake blocked her path to the door. "You're not going anywhere except jail," he said, his voice breaking. "My own sister." As Ellie called the police, the weight of what they'd nearly lost crashed over her. If Duke had been home, would he have stopped this? His distrust of Rachel suddenly made heartbreaking sense. The police arrived quickly, taking Rachel into custody. Detective Laura Bennett reviewed the footage. her calm presence steadying the chaos. "We need to check for signs of prior harm to Lily," she explained gently, noting their horror. "It's standard procedure." From the footage. "This looks like early-stage planning, not an established operation." Tom was arrested at his home, his devices revealing a network of exploitative imagery. His communications with Rachel dated back to Ellie's pregnancy. A calculated betrayal. A pediatric exam confirmed Lily was unharmed, a small mercy amid the unfolding nightmare. As dawn broke, Bear arrived, his face grim. "What about Duke?" he asked. "Where did Tom's brother take him?" Jake's eyes widened. "There is no brother. The training facility, it was a lie to get Duke out of the way." Ellie's voice trembled. Duke knew. He sensed something wrong with Rachel from the start. Detective Bennett promised to investigate, and within an hour, she called back. Tom admitted there's no facility. Duke was taken to a hunting cabin outside town, owned by another member of their network. He's alive but malnourished. Officers are bringing him to the emergency vet now. Jake and Ellie rushed to the vet clinic, arriving just before midnight. The veterinarian met them, her tone reassuring. Duke is stable, dehydrated and underweight, but no serious injuries. He's on fluids and responding well. They followed her to the treatment room, where Duke lay on a table, and 4 in his leg. His head lifted at their approach, a low whine escaping as they reached him. Ellie knelt beside him, tears falling as she pressed her forehead to his. "We found you," she whispered. "We're taking you home." Jake stroked Duke's head, his voice thick. "We're so sorry, buddy." As they prepared to leave, Ellie noticed a folder on the counter, Duke's intake forms. A document caught her eye, official letterhead peeking out. "May I?" she asked. The vet nodded. Inside was a service record from the Des Moines K-9 unit. Duke had been a police dog, serving 3 years in child protection before an injury ended his career. He'd been adopted by his handler but went missing 8 months ago, around the time Jake found him. He was trained to protect kids, Ellie said, her voice breaking. That's why he was so protective of Lily. And why he didn't trust Rachel or Tom. The vet nodded. The officers thought it might be relevant. There's evidence his disappearance wasn't random, he may have been targeted to stop him from interfering. The revelation cemented Duke's role in their family. He hadn't just been a pet, he'd been a trained guardian, trying to warn them of danger. "We sent him away because we trusted the wrong people," Jake said as they drove home, Duke's spot in the back seat empty but not for long. "But he saved Lily anyway," Ellie replied. "He did what he was trained to do, even when we didn't listen." Part 5, Healing and a New Beginning. 15,000 characters. Duke returned home the next afternoon, his tail wagging weakly as he stepped into the house. Lily babbled happily from her playpen, reaching for him, and Duke lay beside her, his amber eyes soft with relief. The Iron Riders rallied around the Harpers, their initial distance after the arrests giving way to support. Members brought meals, helped finish the nursery, and stood by them during the legal proceedings. Rachel and Tom's preliminary hearing came 6 weeks later. In mid-January, Ellie testified with steady resolve, detailing Rachel's manipulation, the childcare setup, the campaign against Duke, the isolation from their support network. Jake's testimony was harder, his voice breaking as he faced his sister. "I trusted her completely," he admitted. "Even when Duke tried to warn us, I believed her." The judge denied bail, citing the severity of the charges: conspiracy, attempted child exploitation, animal cruelty, and ties to a larger network. As Rachel was led away, she glared at Ellie. "She's not your blood." "Jake," she spat. "But she is mine. Ask her about the birth certificate." The words lingered as Jake and Ellie left the courthouse. Under the snowy Iowa sky, Ellie turned to him. "I found documents while gathering evidence," she said. "Rachel and I share the same father. My birth certificate lists him as unknown, but there were letters in her apartment, my mom and yours. Before I was born. They had an affair while your parents were separated. When they reconciled, my mom left town. Rachel knew since our wedding." Jake absorbed the news, the final piece of the puzzle. "So you're half-sisters," he said, a bitter laugh escaping. "I protected her, thinking we only had each other, while you were out there, her real sister. And she tried to destroy you." Ellie took his hand. "We can't make sense of her choices, Jake. What matters is what we do now." That evening, they returned home to find the club gathered in their living room. A show of solidarity. Bear spoke for them all. "We should have been here sooner. Family stands together, especially in the dark times." The support marked a turning point, helping them heal as the legal process continued. Rachel and Tom took plea deals, facing long sentences as their network was dismantled. Detective Bennett assured them their courage had saved not just Lily, but countless other children. On Lily's first birthday, the Harpers celebrated in their backyard, Duke watching over her as she took wobbly steps, her laughter filling the air. The shadows of the past year began to fade, replaced by a deeper appreciation for their true family, built not on blood, but on loyalty and love. The Des Moines K-9 unit sent a representative to honor Duke, presenting him with a custom vest marking him as a retired police dog. "He was always meant to be with you," the officer said. "Some bonds are destiny." As spring bloomed, the Harpers found peace. Their family had been tested by betrayal but emerged stronger, forged in the fire of truth. Duke, their quiet guardian, had shown them the meaning of protection, a lesson they'd carry forward. "We're going to be okay," Jake said, his arm around Ellie as they watched Lily and Duke play. Ellie smiled, her heart full. "We already are." The story of Jake, Ellie, and Duke teaches us a profound lesson. True loyalty often comes from the most unexpected places, and sometimes the quiet guardians in our lives, like a faithful dog, see the truth we miss. It's a reminder to trust those who protect us with unwavering devotion, even when the world tries to pull us apart, and to cherish the family we build through love, not just blood. Duke's courage saved Lily, showing us that listening to the right voices can make all the difference. What did this story teach you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share what moved you most. Or tell us about a loyal companion who's been there for you. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories that celebrate the bonds that matter.